Chapter 1796, Justburg. Four fighter planes flew to the edge of Ordo City, and then the back door opened immediately, and four huge packages fell to the ground with parachutes. Along with them, there were also aliens from the Kluffa unit. Carrying huge mechanical equipment with parachutes, it looked like a complete cube, but the surface showed the beauty of broken puzzles. After they landed on the ground, engineers immediately used the electronic equipment on their bodies to turn on these large machines. Justburg waited until the news of success came from the four directions before he jumped down to the ground. "Come on, make achievements here," Justburg shouted loudly to all members of the Kluffa unit in the communication channel. Yura! Yura! A group of aliens shouted and jumped from the sky, but one step ahead of them were the missiles dragging orange tails in the distant sky. Fremon's troops have the home advantage here, and they can use missiles for support at any time. As Zhang said, although they can resist superpowers, thermal weapons can still work against them. As if sensing the arrival of an attack, the huge mechanical life form suddenly emitted a red light, as if some kind of signal was transmitted, and all the mechanical life forms that were working hard raised their heads. The position that can be roughly called the eye all flashed with strange red light. Dozens of missiles arrived here in an instant, right under the noses of Justburg and others, passing over them and heading straight for the center of the mechanical army in the distance. In an instant, beams of energy shot out from those mechanical life forms, and colorful lights formed a brilliant light rain in the sky. And most of the dozens of extremely fast missiles did not have time to land at all, and were directly hit, causing a violent explosion in the air. Only a few missiles landed in the mechanical army, causing a strong explosion in an instant, and the shock wave blew those mechanical life forms away. Dozens of mechanical life forms at the center of the explosion were directly destroyed, but many mechanical life forms that were thrown hundreds of meters away only had some twisted and damaged torsos. As long as the energy core was not completely destroyed, they could crawl on the ground to fight even without mechanical arms. Several missiles did not have much impact on the battlefield. The Fremon's people were well aware of the hardness of these mechanical life forms. However, after the explosion, the turmoil and large amounts of smoke and dust caused a great opportunity for the Kluffa troops to attack. Justburg and his soldiers have landed in Alto City. 5 large transport planes of F-37 with 1,000 Kluffa warriors in them. Among them, only 1/3 are aliens, and the remaining 700 are well-trained warriors. This is a battlefield, and every grain of cannon fodder has its value. Fremon's military industry is world-class and can even be compared with Huashu and Colombia. After the 1,000-man army arrived here, they immediately began to set up long-range artillery. In the Frozen Age, the miniaturization of weapons is very important. The discovery of new energy has also greatly upgraded modern weapons. Nowadays, the power of a shoulder-mounted artillery can reach the level of large-caliber shipborne artillery in the past. The heavy firepower corps began to attack the mechanical corps from a distance, while the alien troops, led by Justburg, waited for the opportunity to attack. The artillery fire between the two sides killed a large number of Kluffa soldiers, but the loss of mechanical life forms was significantly smaller. The two sides define the concepts of losing combat power and death in completely different ways. As long as human soldiers were injured in limbs, they would die quickly in this environment, but mechanical life forms would not. Justburg couldn't help but sigh. These guys are really the best war machines. Veritable war machines. If we Fremons can thoroughly master this technology, we will definitely dominate the world. The initial test was just to find loopholes in the opponent's formation and judge the opponent's basic firepower. The real winner is always the high-level alien. "It's my turn." Justburg observed the battlefield for a long time and finally found the best defensive route. He reached out to the back, and immediately several Kluffa soldiers brought 2 huge black metal boxes. After the box was opened, there were 2 large and exaggerated crescent-shaped swords inside. Justburg picked up 2 huge crescent swords. The blades were even bigger than his body, but the 2 huge and heavy swords seemed extremely light in his hands. In his eyes, The silver moonlight flashed, and a silver mark of a crescent moon also appeared in the center of his eyebrows. He was as if shrouded in the moonlight, and the light covered his whole body. The blades of the two crescent swords flashed with a cold light. The next moment, his figure became illusory, like a hazy moonlit night, with moon shadows.
Bang!
A violent sonic boom sounded at the place where he had just been, and the surrounding soldiers were blown back by the strong air wave. And Giselberg had already rushed into the battle formation of the mechanical life form. His speed was too fast, and everyone could only see the two huge silver moons quickly harvesting in the mechanical life form. The bodies of those mechanical life forms were extremely tough, but in front of those two knives, they were as fragile as paper. Moon God Giselberg, a strengthening ability user. Today, with the continuous development of alien abilities, aliens are also making up for their own shortcomings, so the division of people with different abilities is no longer so absolute. However, even people who seem to have multiple attributes must have their own outstanding points. For example, Zhang Yi, a dual-time and space ability user, is also very powerful in close combat, but it is only a compensation for the dual-time and space abilities. It can be roughly understood that a person with the ability of a certain system can exert 100% of the ability of his own system, but if he obtains the ability of other systems through drugs, exercise, and secondary awakening, it is often difficult to exert 50% of the effect. Giselberg is an alien of the strengthening system. This is also one of the reasons why he was sent here for this mission. People with the ability of the strengthening system are least affected by the defensive force field. His attack method is pure brute force. What can your defensive force field defend? Giselberg's two silver moons directly tore a crack in the center of the battle formation of the mechanical army. The aliens of the Krufa troops shouted "Yura!" and then rushed over after him. Faced with various attacks of superpowers, the mechanical life forms immediately deployed defensive force fields to resist. But at this time, the anti-defense force field, equipment that Fremon's troops had arranged in advance around them, also began to work. From all directions, powerful energy was released in the form of waves towards the entire battlefield. Fremons had studied them for so long. Although he did not have a genius mechanical engineer like Liu Karen, the time and energy he spent was rewarded. Using the opposite force field to affect the defense field of the mechanical life form can weaken its defensibility by more than 30%. This is definitely a great research result. It is equivalent to weakening the defense of these mechanical life forms by 30%. Offense and defense, that is, the relationship between spear and shield, who is stronger will completely affect the entire battle situation. When the mechanical life form finds that its defense field is not strong enough, it is the time for the Krufa troops to tear their bodies apart. After all, the activities of these mechanical life forms are not as flexible as the human body, and a considerable part of them were soon destroyed. The 300 aliens of the Krufa troops were like the ancient Spartan warriors, marching forward. The ground was full of the wreckage of mechanical life forms. But they were soon submerged in the sea of mechanical life forms. Like a stubborn ship, it kept fighting in the waves. Giselberg was unstoppable all the way and killed directly in front of the super-large mechanical life form. If you want to win this war completely, you must solve this big guy. It is the core of this army. Giselberg's arms suddenly exerted force and directly swept away dozens of mechanical life forms that were blocking the way in front of him. The ray attacks concentrated on him did not cause any damage to his body. Giselberg raised his head and looked up at the huge mechanical life form, but his mouth was full of fanatical and belligerent smiles. He must fight quickly, otherwise, the mechanical army will crush them in terms of numbers. Even if he can survive in the end, the more than 1,000 Krufa warriors around him will surely die. Huh! Giselberg roared, and the moonlight burst out from him, and he ran forward like a flash of lightning. Around the torso of the super-large mechanical life form, red eyes gradually lit up. Giselberg's speed was very fast, but it was not faster than the electronic eyes. His movements were completely captured by the mechanical life form. Swish! 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 The laser cannons swept over like a spider web. Jesselberg's movements stopped in midair, and his body retreated violently and began to spin rapidly along the super-large mechanical life form. Around the super-large mechanical life form, a hurricane of dust mixed with ice and snow suddenly appeared. In an instant, it turned into a tornado hundreds of meters high, covering the super-large mechanical life form in the middle. Jesselberg's speed was fast enough to cause a huge storm. The countless eyes of the super-large mechanical life form flashed. It can accurately determine Jesselberg's position, but its attack speed and reaction speed are not faster than Jesselberg. An overly large body will greatly reduce its flexibility in close range. Jesselberg dodged its space again and again. In his eyes, this big guy is simply stupid. As long as you study your fighting style in advance, it's actually not that difficult to deal with. Jesselberg swung the crescent double blades in his hand, seized the opportunity, and chopped down fiercely at the ankles of the super-large mechanical life form. Smooth cuts appeared directly at the ankles of its limbs. The body of the super-large mechanical life form became unbalanced, and there were signs of tipping to one side. Seeing that he succeeded, the fighting spirit on Jesselberg's face became stronger. When the members of the Krufa troop saw this scene, they also shouted Yura! Yura! As if they had seen the upcoming victory. The super-large mechanical life form quickly stabilized its body, but Jesselberg had already killed it directly below its body, which made it a little flustered. Just below its core area, a long and thin mechanical arm extended towards Jesselberg, but was directly cut off by Jesselberg's two crescent scimitars. The launch ports like spider eyes shot out dense lasers, but they were also blocked by Jesselberg directly with a sword. Without the advantage of the defensive force field, your offensive ability is just like this? Jesselberg laughed and cut off another mechanical arm of the super-large mechanical life form with his backhand. The battle situation on the scene was transmitted to Samran City in real time, and the three-person team of Bodaga was watching this crusade in real time. The battle situation in front of them made the three people breathe a sigh of relief. Bodaga said excitedly, "Our research for so long has not been in vain." Vladimir nodded. "After all, it is a machine. As long as we understand the principle of its operation, it is actually much easier to deal with than a human." Aliev smiled and said, "This is also thanks to the research data provided to us by the alien forces of other countries. According to the current situation, we have mastered the method of dealing with these mechanical life forms. Next, we can reduce the frequency of their actions. All safe tasks will be done by our people, and only when the tasks with high risk appear will they be handed over to them." The three-person team made a good calculation. On the battlefield, Jesselberg has already taken the lead. Although this super-large mechanical life form has strong defense and is too large, it takes some time to deal with it, but there is almost no suspense about the victory of the war. But no one noticed that in a corner of the city, a strange humanoid creature covered in black quietly appeared. He looked at Jesselberg, who was struggling to hack at the super-large mechanical life form, and his eyes flashing with complex information streams exuded a puzzled emotion, and he was also whispering. If someone could understand his language, they would understand that what he said was, "Why did he attack an engineering vehicles?" The humanoid creature was puzzled by Jesselberg's behavior. This is not the first time. Recently, the ground engineering forces have been reporting that they were attacked by the natives. At first, the mechanical civilization did not care. After all, they were just some mass-produced engineering machines. Since they decided to send them to explore the ground with unknown danger, there would always be accidents. But recently, such attacks have become more frequent. This has seriously affected their plans, so today, when the engineering machinery troops once again fed back the intelligence of the attack to them, the mechanical civilization dispatched its own combat arms.